Hello, welcome to another video, and this is rather the video I wish I didn't have to make. I saw it just popped up as posts do, the community posts. Just popped up on my timeline on YouTube. A post from Tommy Amico where he mentioned that Ramblin Man had passed away. I'm like, what? And he linked one of his videos, and I just thought that can't be right, surely. The guy's only it must only be about my age. I know he had his own business, and he one of his videos, I'll come to his channel in a moment, one of his videos showed him sort of walking around his sort of main office, just like a sort of porter cabin kind of thing. But yeah, I got the impression, I mean, he could even be younger than me, I don't know. But yeah, it's just bizarre. It's bad enough when you see like someone like Lance Reddick, the actor he died last Friday, and he's probably best known for things like The Wire. Of course, John Wick Chapter 4 is out in the cinema this Friday. So since his death was only announced on Friday, because he died on Friday, so that'll be March 17th, and the film's due out on, I think maybe due out on the Thursday. They may update some prints of the film to include a tribute to him if they issue later prints, but it may just be that they don't put a tribute on that. I don't know. I can't imagine it's a quick job to render a new copy of the film and just recall a load of hard drives which have the film on and send new ones out. Anyway, but yeah, he was 60, and I mean, no, that's bad enough. And I'm playing retro games now. I mean, I've just turned 50 last year, and there's some games I play now that the retro games I first played when I was about 10. So that's 40 years ago thereabouts. And another 40 years I'll be 90 if I'm still here. So that's a thought to conjure with. But and then I just learned first from I learned it from, let's say, Tommy Amico's YouTube channel and his community post, and then I saw a video from Pong Show. So I think it's a moment of silence for the Rambling Man, and it's also talking about the Amico community. So just seems bizarre. I'll just come to Rambling Man's channel. So obviously it's still there. Do have a look. This was the last video he put out, so it's quite some time ago. And let's have a look. So just having a bit of a rant, just sort of a placeholder rant about not very much. But I just sort of like listening to these rants. Or it wasn't really a rant; it was just a conversation. And he just started talking about apologies only because he said he mentioned he had health issues. He didn't go into detail about the health issues. Obviously, we now know whatever they were must have been serious. But he did say at some point he may make a video about that. But this was the last video made. So it was May 15th last year. There were no other videos after that. Yeah, I mentioned. So he talked about his parents. I talked about how my dad passed away in 2015, and then my mum in 2021. And yeah, still feels weird. I'm sort of getting used to things myself, but yeah, I thought he was UK based, but then he mentions Canadian geese. What else have we got here? Genovi, good God. Yeah, Genovi's videos just remind me of the tedious Open University programs that were on in the middle of the night probably around about midnight really, on BBC Two. Just absolutely awful. He's such a dull little man. But yeah, of course, Ramblin Man being in the UK as it turned out, knows all about Open University. He'll have seen the programs. So I don't know. You get adverts now where people can sort of sign up to get a Open University course, and how it's a great springboard to the career that you really want. Yeah, completely forgetting to mention that you'll spend several thousands of pounds doing so. It's not free. But it was nice that he mentioned that things I'd said obviously about my mum gave him the confidence to talk about his situation. Just then I started talking about how weird the weekends were for me, because I used to go and see my parents usually on a Saturday, and then they just divorced a long time ago. So I used to usually go and see my dad for lunch, and then go see my mum in the afternoon. So obviously when Dad died, that was just sort of half the day cut out. It was just all very weird, and the whole thing was cut out when my mum died, and I was like completely. It all happened in the middle of lockdown when my mum died, so I wasn't going anywhere, and so this sort of brings us back to this sort of image here, because one thing we were only allowed to do when we were on lockdowns, we were only allowed to leave the house for about an hour a day maximum to get some exercise. You couldn't do any more. You couldn't attend parties. You couldn't. It was shut down anyway, so you couldn't. It's not like you could just go to the pub anyway. But of course, then we now know, and it's coming out in the wash. Well, it's come out in the wash anyway, but it'll do so even more on Wednesday of this week. About the lockdown parties in number 10 Downing Street, and what Boris Johnson got up to, because he's going to have to fess up for a change. But so what I started doing was going around my local park, which is obviously local to me because it's a local park, and I did that. Well, I must have done that for quite some time. Must have done that for about a year or so. I know actually lockdown went on longer than that, didn't it? So from about 2022, around about sort of Easter of 2022, I went through the local park an awful lot, but I just got to the point where, as great as it looks, I got to the point where if you go there every day, it just felt weird. Just got a little bit fed up of it, seeing the same thing again and again. I just wanted to get out a bit further. There are other places I go to now, just for a long walk. Usually at the weekend, just to get. I mean, there are other places I'll go during the week, but I want to be able to get, especially at the weekend. I want to be able to get away from the house. There's no point in me walking locally to the park, because as soon as I get there and I've had a quick walk around, I'll be back home, and the one thing I want to do is get out the house more. I mean, it was a case of where before lockdowns, I was doing. Obviously working, going out to work like Monday to Friday sort of thing, and then Saturday and Sunday, Saturday I'd see my parents, Sunday would be the one day of the week I'd be at home all day doing not very much apart from playing video games and watching films and so on. But when it got to the point where I was working from home Monday to Friday, and then being at home Saturday and Sunday with nowhere to go and literally nothing to do, apart from still be at home, maybe it was cabin fever. I don't know. I just started to have enough of all that. So I've sort of got a bit of a hybrid working thing where sometimes I can be at home, sometimes I can be in the office. So you don't have to be in the office all the time. You can do if you really want to, but there's no obligation to do so. And so that means that come the weekend, even though I've got a zillion video games I could be playing, I want to get out the house for part of the day. It's just got to be done. I found myself going to the cinema a lot more since obviously those have since reopened. There's if you're on 3, the mobile phone service 3 in the UK, there's a great offer. Even if you have the pay-as-you-go SIM for £3, you get one ticket for Cineworld, which you can use either Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. And it means to watch the film it's just £3, which you can't be beat. If you go normally Monday to Thursday, it will be £5.99 for the average film, whereas on a Saturday for the average film well, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the average film, anywhere between £10 and £13. So yeah, that's for basic as well. Never mind super screen and 4DX and all that palaver. It's just basically a regular film can be £12 or £13. So you're getting to see it for £3. So I mean that can't be beaten. Again, it gets to be out of the house. So yeah, it's sort of win-win. Even when it was something like as so-so as Halloween Ends. I mean, when Halloween Kills came out, I watched it at home because it was basically put out on Peacock streaming service at the same time as it was in the cinema. But then Halloween Ends comes along a year later. Yes, that was the same situation. It's put out on Peacock, so yes, I could have watched it at home as well. But for £3 to get out the house like I needed to, I want to be out of the house, not in the house so much. I've seen enough of the house. There was a time when I thought I could work from home for the rest of my life and I'd be happy about it. But then, of course, as things started opening up more and you saw people around and about more, I think that's sort of what twigged within me to make me think, I need to get out of here. I'm getting cabin fever. I've seen the walls too much. So, yeah. So, yeah, and also going for long walks, and because I wanted to, well, I ended up, I've talked about this before, I've been like sort of down walking along the canals in Sale, for example, Sale in Greater Manchester, because that was where my dad used to live. And there are other places I've gone for walks. One was on the Transpennine Trail near me, and it was fine. I went along there 2 or 3 times, but it was kind of a bit featureless for a lot of the time, and also the trails were very narrow, so you're trying to pass people, and it's just a bit, and there's also not an awful lot to see. And once you've seen it basically. You could say the same about Canal Side, but there's a lot more people walking along, and it feels a lot more open because it is more open, and you can sort of feel you can breathe a lot more. And I sort of worked out, for example, if I did go down to Sale and walk through the usual path that I'm walking a lot on, I can get a good 10,000 steps in. So that's all good. Then I'll go down there. I'll take my headphones with me, connect up via Bluetooth from my phone, and listen to lots of YouTube vlogs. So if you're thinking it's a chore to get out there and lose some weight, it's not. And especially as I was doing this as spring was coming around last year, and it's obviously it's coming around again now. It's still trying to stay rainy, but yeah, it's coming around again. So if you're not sure and you want to lose some weight, you don't need to go and join a gym with expensive subscriptions. Just put your headphones on, put on a YouTube vlog, or music or anything. Just get outside, go for a long walk, and once you've done that a number of times, you'll find you start losing some weight. It's quite something. And it's on walks like those. I like to listen to long vlogs where that's why I like to do them, where I'm not on camera necessarily, because the kind of vlogs I like to watch are ones where watching the screen is not necessary. Sometimes there may be something to look at, but there isn't always. And it's just something you can just put on, and you can, if you don't have to look at it, you can generally listen to it a lot better as you walk along. You sort of pay attention to it more, so that's good. Of course, I realise I'm rambling a lot now, so but I hope Ramblin Man would like this video if he was watching it. Maybe he can from wherever he is. I don't know. Who knows? I'm not religious, but there's got to be more than this, because otherwise, what's the point? You know what I mean? Yeah, watching Ben Pong's video, a couple of things, because he talked about health issues, how we've all got health issues. So, and who knows how long we've got. I sort of aim to try and get to the point where I'm beating maybe beating. There's a guy who was in the news a couple of years ago, Captain Tom, who was coming up to 100, and he was trying to do 100 laps of his mansion before he turned 100. And he did it, and he was raising money for the NHS. It was always a bit of a. I mean, obviously, he'd been in the war, and he was a good man, and so on. But the whole thing just had a bit of a media darling approach to it, because he said he was raising money for the NHS, fine, because obviously the Tories certainly aren't. But there'll be lots of people who are trying to raise money, but they're not getting the same promotion he was, and as a result, everyone just sort of follows the crowd and just threw money at his charity fundraising, and he raised something like about 32 million pounds, which is quite staggering. Meanwhile, other people who try to raise money for either the NHS or other charities, and I don't know how you give money to the NHS, because it's government funded, so I don't know how you sort of hand your money in for that. It's not like an Alzheimer's charity, for example, where you literally give the money to the charity. But anyway, it must have been a way to do it, otherwise he wouldn't have done it. And there has been some sort of question over things to do with his granddaughter, I think. I'm not sure whether it was daughter or granddaughter, Hannah something. Whether she was misappropriating funds. That's never seemed to have come out in the wash. And then shortly after he turned 100, he went on holiday. None of us could go on holiday abroad. Somehow he was able to go on holiday. The whole family went. Benidorm, Barbados, I think he went. And then, as soon as he came home, he got COVID and died, sadly. But in fact, he died the day before my mum died. Exactly, the day before. So, as my sister said, obviously her mum was she was a big fan of Captain Tom's, but she was completely out of it, unconscious for several days beforehand. So she didn't get to know that he'd passed away. So she would have been very upset about that. I mean, it's not unheard of that someone of 100 has passed away, but I guess she wouldn't have been happy with it. But health issues, you never know. So he got to 100. As I say, I don't know how old Ramblin Man was. He could have been my age. I'm guessing he was younger. So from his voice, I'm guessing sort of early 40s perhaps, possibly mid 40s, because he owns a business. Who knows? But there was a time when there's a guy I worked with, for example, from he was a couple of years older than me at the time, at somewhere I worked, and we worked together for a few years up until about 2003, and then great bloke, great friends, and then I went to work at another office, and we just kind of lost touch over the years, as you do. It's just I don't know, life just sort of takes you away. Not that I had anything majorly going on in my life, but you just sort of, because you're not in constant touch, and it was before Facebook and all that, we just, I don't know, fell out of contact. And then around about 2010, we reconnected again, and he was on Facebook, and we chatted a couple of times on Messenger, or whatever the equivalent of it was at the time. Excuse me. Have some water. Talk amongst yourself for a minute. But I know his dad died around about 2001, 2002. And then a few months after, literally about 2 or 3 months after we reconnected, we're sort of talking about getting together again. Came to about January next year, I think about 2009 we reconnected. Excuse me. And then I think it's about January 2010, about January 2010. I got a message from his brother saying that he died, and that it was classed as natural causes. He was about how old would he be? I think it's about 2010. So I think he's about 39 at the time. So how can you be 39 and die of natural causes? I mean, I know he did have some issues I won't go into, but even still, it's not natural causes to me that someone can die at that age. But that was just drastically sad either way. But so, just one other thing I'll address before I wrap up. Um, Ben Pong asked, where does he always imagined how Ramblin Man looks, and that he's basically looks like the avatar on his what's it? Just go back to yeah, to that. So yeah, that's actually a guy called Jack Hargreaves. Um, Now I know he was no longer with us, sadly, but I had to look him up, and he was a guy who I saw on TV in the 70s and 80s, and as it turned out, he was born in 1911, died in March. No, he died 15th of March 1994. Now that's almost exactly 29 years to the day that this has happened. I don't know what date Ramblin Man's passed away, but 15th of March is when Jack Hargreaves passed away. And Jack Hargreaves, excuse me, Jack Hargreaves. I won't put the music on, but he had a couple of programs on TV in the 1780s. One called Old Country and one called Out of Town. I think it was basically the same program. I only knew it was Out of Town. It was about life in the country. But I think he was on one. He changed between broadcasters, so you can't just keep the same name. You have to sort of retitle it, even though it's going to be the exact same program. It's like how BBC have Top Gear, and for a while Channel 5 had one called Fifth Gear. So that was all about just about living in the country. Started in 1960, and it was still going into like the mid 80s, probably till about 85, something like that. You'd never get a program lasting that long these days, but there was nothing else on in the afternoon, so it just sort of filled a slot and was supposed was comfortable viewing for housewives and things like that. So I won't play the music. I mean, I'm not monetizing this particular video anyway, but I don't want to put music on it because, well, then adverts will start popping up. So you'll be thinking, oh, Dom's monetized this particular video, even when I haven't. But adverts will pop up because of because of a few seconds of someone's music, which is a really bloody stupid thing of YouTube's. You just can't escape it. But it was like a sort of slightly revamped version of a song which I usually heard from John Williams, Recuerdos de la Alhambra. I'm not quite sure if that's the. I'm not pronouncing that properly. If you know it, you'll know it. If you don't, then I'll put it in the description below. I'll put links to these in the description below. So, so we've got John Williams there. I also came across one. I was just looking it up. Anna Vidovich playing the same song. So I know between her and John Williams who I'd rather watch playing the song. But she does a fantastic version of it. So, yeah, this is the kind of thing where I could play it. I could play out the video by playing a bit of the music because it's very evocative. It's just a brilliant piece of music. I'm sure when you hear it, you'll love it. But I just don't want this to start getting, copyright claimed, and so it's full of adverts and so on. So that's just going to be annoying all around. But I'll put links in the description so you can check it out there. So yeah, so rest in peace, Ramblin Man. I don't know what your face looked like. I don't know what your name is, but that doesn't matter. You don't have to know. As Ben Pong says, we can always imagine you as Jack Hargreaves. Obviously, Ben Pong didn't mention Jack Hargreaves by name because he wasn't sure, but that's who the guy is. Jack Hargreaves, who passed away March 15th, 1994. So at the age of 82. But he always had, when I saw him, he always had grey hair and a pipe. Because I think in the 70s, or well, it must have been 1960 when he started. Even men who are like around about sort of 50, they're all like grey hair and pipes and all the rest of it. It's just it's just a different time. You have people now in the 60s who dye their hair. So, excuse me, get some water. People who dye their hair so they're not grey now. Whereas people who were like in their 50s seemed really, really old back then. When you were a kid, it just seem ancient. Maybe I seem ancient to kids when I was kids of the age when I thought people in the 50s were ancient. So probably am. You get to that point where you sort of seem invisible anyway. So there was a thing where, I suppose like in the 80s and so on, where if you felt invisible, you could probably nick stuff from shops and no one would even notice because you're invisible. Of course, you can't do that now because everything's got like an RFID tag in it. So if you don't scan it on the machine and then try and take it outside, it would just go beep, and so you're not going to get very far. So besides, it's not worth getting felt up by the long arm of the law just for stealing a bit of food. It's if you're stealing £1 million, then yeah, but you don't generally find £1 million on sale in Tesco. Certainly not for a few quid. So anyway, we'll just go back to the image there. I sort of wish I could just sort of put my camera, set a camera up and just film something like that and just talk for a whole half hour. I mean, I've pretty much done. I've talked for a long time here anyway. Sort of mostly off the top of my head. I mean, I've made a few notes just to talk about certain things, but I thought I might be rambling for about 10 minutes max. I've gone on for quite some time. But also, at any point, if I was to do this in my local park, at any point where I put the camera, I'd soon get interrupted by people walking past anyway. So, yeah, it's not doable anyway. But as I say, I want to get sort of a bit further afield than just sort of literally round the corner from home, because if I'm it doesn't feel like I've gone anywhere unless maybe I've gone on the motorway to get somewhere. Otherwise, it feels, even if it's just sort of a few stops down the motorway, at least I've gone somewhere for the day, for the afternoon, just to get out, the weekend, just to get out of the house for 2 or 3 hours, if I'm not going to the cinema. But anyway, so there's some rambling. Didn't expect to be rambling so long. What should I say? If you get to this point in the video and you've listened to all of this, just put the word plinth in the comments. Don't come to anything else. Don't say why you're putting the word plinth. So plinth is in PLINTH. I remember Stephen Fry was once asked, "What's your favourite word?" He said plinth. So yeah, the word plinth is a great word, and it's a polite word. You can't have an impolite plinth. But anyway, it's plinth. Just if you got to this point, put plinth in the comments, and then a few months down the line, some people will still be watching this video. They'll put plinth in the comments, and I'll completely forget why I asked them to put plinth in the comments. Anyways, so I'm certainly not going to go out with Genesis on this one because I don't want any noisy music. But yeah. It's strange. It's a strange world, a strange week. And I don't want to go out with playing the music because that's just then to get the video copyright claimed, as I mentioned. So let's just go back to the picture of Jack Hargreaves. Just have some water. Because at the time of recording this, I'm recording this on Tuesday, so on Monday, so I'll put it up on Tuesday. But yeah, so I'm not got the alcohol, but I'll still toast to Ramblin Man and Godspeed, young man. I'm not religious, but Godspeed. And wherever you are, hope you're watching this, and wish we could have more videos from you. But, rest in peace. So yeah, thank you for listening.